EU lawmakers vote for 3 major texts in anti-money laundering package that also targets crypto. UK regulator FCA plans to deliver a market abuse regime for crypto this year. Genesis to pay SEC $21 million penalty to settle charges over Gemini iron product.
China tells U.S. to not take sides on South China Sea issue. In Indonesia, Beijing's South China Sea presence seen as threat to national interests, survey shows. Taiwan acknowledges presence of U.S. troops on outlying islands.
Elon Musk accused Jeff Bezos' former wife Mackenzie Scott of destroying Western civilization with her philanthropy, then she quietly doubled her donations. In France, 3 families hold 15.5% of the CAC 40, including the Arnolds, the largest shareholders in the index. Saga announces Saga Origins publishing arm for Web3 games. Polygon Labs paid $4 million to host Starbucks' failed foray into crypto, as claimed by sources. Final Fantasy XIV on Xbox gets its own currency for microtransactions. Ewan McGregor says intimacy coordinator was necessary to film sex scenes with wife Mary Elizabeth Winstead. It's also about the crew. Dan Schneider says he is sorry for the pain he caused his TV staff. Suspected Russian data wiping acid pour malware targeting Linux x86 devices. Cyber attacks are hitting water systems throughout U.S., Biden officials warn governors. Pokemon resets some users' passwords after hacking attempts.
A pro-Trump attorney arrested after hearing on leaked Dominion documents. Donald Trump sues ABC News for defamation over a report citing rape case. Joe Biden says Donald Trump despises Latinos in pitch for key vote.
Trezor's official Twitter account was hacked in a suspected SIM swap attack. Ukraine arrests trio for hijacking over 100 million email and Instagram accounts. Users ditch the glass door, stunned by site adding real names without consent. Negative flows for Bitcoin ETFs, $642 million evaporated in 24 hours, and Bitcoin endures biggest daily price drop since FTX crash. Bitwise reveals major institutions will start investing in Bitcoin ETFs starting Q2. Citi and Brazilian Development Bank join Hyperledger Foundation.
EU's Borrell to propose 90% of frozen Russian assets should go to European peace facility. Rheinmetall to build a gunpowder factory in Romania. Russia will threaten Europe even after Putin's rule, says Latvian foreign minister. Armenia's prime minister says quick border demarcation needed to avoid new conflict with Azerbaijan. Top former U.S. generals blame Biden administration for chaotic 2021 Afghanistan exit. North Koreans shocked as Cuba establishes ties with South Korea.
A court rejects Italian government's attempt to remove lesbian moms from birth certificates. 9 months ago, Italian prosecutor demands cancellation of birth certificates for lesbian couples. German state of Bavaria bans gender-sensitive language in schools and other public bodies. Brazil's Bolsonaro indicted over alleged falsification of his own vaccination data, and Bolsonaro gave the order to issue vaccination certificates for himself and his daughter, Cid said in a statement. New evidence suggests Otzi the Iceman's tattoos were made using a single pointed tool. Trudeau government to stop sending arms to Israel once details are worked out, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says. An Israeli foreign minister slams Canadian counterpart's decision to stop sending arms to Israel. Netanyahu says, no way to eliminate Hamas without Rafah operation. Ukrainian drones have knocked out 600,000 to 900,000 barrels of Russia's daily oil refining capacity. Luxembourg joins artillery coalition and will buy drones for Ukraine. Russian, Belarusian athletes barred from Paris Olympics opening ceremony.
NVIDIA's latest AI chip will cost more than $30,000, CEO says. U.S. weighs sanctioning Huawei's secretive Chinese chip network. China-based Canadians stole Tesla secrets, U.S. prosecutors say.
Nokia tells Reddit it infringes some patents in lead-up to IPO. After TikTok, EU to scrutinize US-based social media apps for data privacy, safeguards against AI. Microsoft is now blocking Russian firms from using its cloud services.
Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner says Gaza waterfront property could be very valuable. Cambodian Prime Minister bans musical vehicle horns to deter dancing. Far-right Austrian nationalist Martin Sellner banned from entering Germany. And Elon Musk replies to post by far-right Austrian linked to Christchurch terrorist after X account restored.
NVIDIA announces Project GR00T Foundation model for humanoid robots and major Isaac Robotics platform update. NVIDIA and Qualcomm join Open Source Robotics Alliance to support ROS development. NVIDIA wants to replace nurses with AI for $9 an hour.
Jimmy Kimmel roasts Donald Trump for still stewing over Oscars joke. Trump slams lousy host and Kimmel says I love that this bothered him so much. Recently, Trump hit Jimmy Kimmel, "This guy's even dumber than I thought." Stormy Daniels' documentary Stormy is now streaming on Peacock.
The Article 23, Hong Kong legislature passes tough new national security law. EU, UN criticize new Hong Kong security law imposed by Beijing. Beijing slams Britain, EU for criticizing Hong Kong domestic national security law, urges end to illusions of colonial influence.
Shell plans to divest 1,000 retail sites and shift to EV charging. Saudi Aramco CEO says it's time to abandon the fantasy of phasing out oil because the $9.5 trillion energy transition is on a road to nowhere. Over half of global commutes are by car, says study. Ferrari CEO says its EV won't be silent like Tesla's, it'll roar with emotion. Audi will abandon its powertrain-based naming structure. Geely profit beats estimates, even as China's price war rages on.
Apple reportedly accelerating entry-level Vision Pro, and it could cost $2,000 less. iPhone 17 tipped to sport improved scratch-resistant anti-reflective screens similar to Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. NIST workshop on the requirements for an accordion cipher mode 2024 to develop a new mode of the AES that is a tweakable, variable input length strong pseudo-random permutation, VIL SPRP, with a reduction proof to the security of the underlying block cipher.
Ariana Grande's grandmother, 98, becomes oldest artist to chart on Billboard's Hot 100. Lady Gaga revives Jazz and Piano Vegas residency for summer 2024. William Shatner says that new Star Trek has Roddenberry twirling in his grave. DARPA picks Northrop Grumman to develop lunar payload concept. China launches Kuikai-02 relay satellite to support moon missions. SpaceX to sell the satellite laser links that speed in space communication to rivals.
Europe turns to the Falcon 9 to launch its navigation satellites. Boeing begins fueling Starliner capsule ahead of first astronaut launch. As Starship rival, Chinese scientists build prototype engine for nuclear-powered spaceship to Mars.
In the UK, barges and RAF bases more expensive than hotels to house asylum seekers, announced by the watchdog. Mexico said it won't accept deportees from Texas, as SB 4 takes effect. Homicides in U.S. dropped by more than 13% in 2023, FBI data shows.
UN Weather Agency issues red alert on climate change after record heat, ice melt increases in 2023. A U.S. Kleenex plant contaminated drinking water with PFAS. Lawsuit says Finland is world's happiest country for 7th year, claimed in a study. Israel kept the place in the opening 5 and Germany is no longer one of the 20 happiest countries. Also U.S. no longer in top 20 of world's happiest countries and is now behind Kuwait, Lithuania, UAE.
Trump asks the Supreme Court for absolute immunity in election interference case. Navarro becomes first Trump White House official to report to prison over January 6. Trump says he'd have to hold fire sale of properties to meet $464 million bond.
India prepares to start new LNG import terminal as demand rises. India's first battery storage gigafactory to start operating by October. Canada signs hydrogen deal with Germany. Sites need to shun Russian energy.
Federer-backed, the On sneaker brand to open first Hong Kong store. Unilever to spin off ice cream business, cut 7,500 jobs for cost savings. Airbus CEO says, Boeing's problems are bad for whole industry.
Years after 231 million % inflation, Zimbabwe eyes the gold standard. UK inflation falls to 3.4% in February as food price rises slow. U.S. consumers pay average of $61 per month for video streaming services, claimed in a study. EU backs law against forced labor in supply chains. FTX was down to last 105 bitcoins when bankruptcy rescue crew arrived, says John Ray. Duquan appeal of South Korea extradition rejected by Montenegro court as Montenegro affirms extradition of crypto king to South Korea. Lithuania licensed crypto bank Mel to offer tokenized RWAs to retail investors.
UK woman, Wen Jian guilty of laundering Bitcoin from $6.3 billion China fraud. Kyle Davies says he is unapologetic about the collapse of Three Arrows Capital, 3AC. Tornado Cash developer Pertsev's $1.2 billion money laundering allegations detailed, ahead of Dutch trial. Hermes makes coveted Birkin bags too hard to buy, U.S. shoppers say in lawsuit. Man arrested after allegedly boarding Delta flight using photo of another passenger's ticket. A Russian district called an election recount after someone else got more votes than Putin, reports say.
Judge dismisses DirecTV's antitrust lawsuit against Nexter. Paramount shares rise on report of Apollo's $11 billion bid for company's Hollywood studio.
K-pop SB sets concert film theatrical release. Dr. Dre announces new Eminem album coming out this year. Lauryn Hill, Guns N' Roses among Grammy Hall of Fame inductees.
New Loop DOS attack impacts hundreds of thousands of systems. Team City flaw leads to surge in ransomware, crypto mining, and rat attacks. New Bunny Loader malware variant surfaces with modular attack features.
Ivanti releases an urgent fix for the Critical Century RCE vulnerability. Atlassian releases fixes for over 24 flaws, including critical bamboo bug. GitHub's latest AI tool can automatically fix code vulnerabilities.
U.S. National Security Advisor meets with Zelensky to assure him of U.S. support, announced by the White House. As National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan meets with Zelensky, as Ukraine aid stalls in Congress. Kyiv signals it needs military instructors, not troops from allies. The Netherlands gives Ukraine hundreds of millions of ammunition and drones.
To evade anti-Israel protests, U.S. Jewish and Israeli events keep their locations secret, and French hate crimes surged in wake of Gaza war, government report shows. U.S. submits draft resolution to UN Security Council, calling for Gaza ceasefire, announced Blinken. IDF says over $3 million in cash seized at Shifa, 300 terror suspects captured, and Defense Minister Gallant says, 2024 will be a year of war and a year of victory.
Modi's India plans its own democracy index, after global rankings downgrade. Solomon Islands PM praises China's governance while criticizing democracy as immoral. China's Navy ship tails Philippine Coast Guard, amid sea spat.
Comedian Dimitri Martin strikes two special deal with Netflix. First hour, Dimitri Deconstructed, premieres in April. New The Office series, Greg Daniels taps Nathan for Yuko Boss to help him create potential show. EU to crack down on unpaid internships exploiting despair of young people. EU sees 200% surge in imports from China's Xinjiang region. Despite human rights concerns, 1 in 12 stars might have swallowed a planet.
Naval Group starts the construction of the first third-generation French nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine, and France to restart tritium production with EDF for nuclear weapons. Russia says it is pushing Ukrainian forces back, will create 2 new armies. Russia warns United States that the use of SpaceX for spying makes its satellites a target.
California tribe that lost 90% of land during gold rush to get site to serve as gateway to redwoods. Russian copper producers have directed supplies to Asian, Middle Eastern countries.
Germany charges military officer with spying for Russia, and Germany's Attorney General assumes control of probe into Bundeswehr leak, as reported by Der Spiegel. UK does not intend to fight side by side with Kyiv troops in Ukraine, PM's office announced. Posterchild for Russia's removal of Ukraine orphan says he was coached, threatened. Hopes of HIV cure after breakthrough using gene editing scissors. Elon Musk's Neuralink shows quadriplegic patient playing online chess with his mind. BioNTech tumbles as cure for profit, sales trail estimates on falling COVID-19 vaccine demand.
Mall of America starts using K9s to sniff for guns. Chicago City sues gunmaker Glock alleging design flaw that allows pistols to be converted to automatic. Judge rules that illegal immigrants have gun rights protected by Second Amendment. Reddit's CEO Steve Huffman is paid more than the heads of Meta, Pinterest, and Snap combined, and Reddit priced its shares at $34 in the first social media IPO in years. Hong Kong SMEs eager to adopt AI, robotics and other technologies despite costs and skills gap, as per HSBC survey. Anti-drone radio jammers are marketed on Amazon and Google, despite being outlawed by FCC rules. UN to vote on first resolution on AI, aimed at ensuring safe, secure and trustworthy use of the technology. Google hit with $270 million fine in France as authority finds news publishers' data was used for Gemini. Apple faces legal protest from Meta, Microsoft, X, Spotify and Match.
WhatsApp on Android may soon be getting voice message transcription, like on iOS. Oracle warns that macOS 14.4 update breaks Java on Apple CPUs. Intel gets $19.5 billion to build and improve semiconductor factories, in largest chip investment in U.S. history. The Sims movie in the works with Margot Robbie's Lucky Chap, Vertigo and Loki director Kate Herron. Alien, Romulus. The first trailer for Ridley Scott-approved franchise Restarter is announced. David Schwimmer to star in Goosebumps Season 2 at Disney+.
Blood Simple and Blade Runner star Emmett Walsh dies aged 88. Susan Sarandon says Hollywood hasn't done the cleanup following the aftermath of Harvey Weinstein. In Daniel Alves' case, Spanish court gives provisional release to former player, on bail of €1 million.
Hong Kong holds base rate at 5.75% after Fed's unanimous vote to keep watching for signs of slowing U.S. inflation, and Federal Reserve Chair Powell opens door to rate cuts in 2024, downplays recent inflation upticks, and S&P 500 rises to all-time highs, as Federal Reserve sees 3 rate cuts in 2024, but a more shallow easing path. European Central Bank's Lagarde signals June cut but says future rate path uncertain. Ueda says Bank of Japan's March hike designed to avoid sharp moves later.
Miami played host to $350 million Argentinian money laundering scheme, federal officials say. In Spain, the civil guard searches the Football Federation and Rubiales' house, and arrests several people for corruption and money laundering. Also Spain and Saudi soccer deal in spotlight as Spanish Federation and former boss raided. U.S. Department of Justice may allow Assange to plead guilty under softer charges, claimed in a report, and Assange team sees no sign of resolving U.S. charges, after reported plea deal talks.
China plans to ease visa rules to attract foreign talent and money. Russia in talks on visa-free travel with Asian, African, Middle Eastern countries, announced by Ministry of Foreign Affairs. China to provide all possible support to Russia in BRICS, said the ambassador.
Lincoln president says that brand not currently focused on EVs. Fiat 500e may get surprise mild hybrid engine because of EV slowdown. Trump invites Chinese to build U.S. auto plants.
Monopoly Ghost developers spent more on marketing than it cost to develop The Last of Us 2. Epic's Fortnite to allow players to build and profit from their own official Lego Island games, and Epic will take 12% cut of Epic Games Store sales when it launches on iPhone this year. EA, Miniclip, Jajix loot box ads broke UK advertising rules.
New data shows Canadians under 30 very unhappy, as Canada slips to 15th place in annual World Happiness Report. More than 50,000 Americans died by suicide in 2023, more than in a year on record. In the UK, 1 in 5 Muslim prisoners is white, as gangs drive conversions.
E-waste from trashed electric devices is piling up and recycling isn't keeping pace, UN says. Study finds large accumulations of plastics in the ocean, even outside of so-called garbage patch. Strawberries, blueberries, spinach make 2023 Dirty Dozen list.
Climate models can't explain 2023's huge heat anomaly, that we could be in uncharted territory. Biden administration rolls out new tailpipe rules that will boost EVs and hybrids. Google used AI to accurately predict floods, up to 7 days in advance. Nikki Haley donors switched to Joe Biden over Donald Trump. United Steelworkers Union endorses Joe Biden for president. Kennedy family set to step up its efforts to help Biden's campaign.
New York Attorney General says Trump is lying to avoid paying $464 million judgment. Der Spiegel reports that Trump sends begging letters to his fans, and Andrew Weissman says that Trump simply doesn't have the money to pay the $464 million bond. New York Post reported that Donald Trump may not pay bond, and instead let Letitia James seize Trump Tower, as claimed by insiders. Trump's PAC burned $230,000 a day on legal bills in February. Republicans reject motion to impeach Joe Biden, and U.S. Congress households public hearing on Biden family influence peddling with Hunter Biden's former associates. Republicans kill motion to subpoena Jared Kushner to answer for $2 billion Saudi cash infusion.
India probe finds that rogue officials involved in U.S. murder plot. U.S. rejects China's claim to Arunachal Pradesh, says it is a part of India. Russia arrests two in first LGBTQ extremism criminal case.
Vo Van Thuong, Vietnam's leader forced out of office over shortcomings. Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar says he's quitting for personal and political reasons. UK has its first black government leader, as Vaughan Gething is elected First Minister of Wales.
Saudi Arabia reportedly in talks with VC firms like Andreessen Horowitz to create mammoth $40 billion AI fund. A Japanese startup is shipping $89 strawberries, $120 melons. A South Korean chemical tanker capsizes off Japan, killing 8 and leaving 2 missing.
The crypto exchange Backpack hires finance veteran Oliver Sleeper as CFO. BlackRock unveils BUIDL tokenized asset fund on Ethereum, with $5 million buy-in. Elizabeth Warren unloads on Elon Musk, urging SEC Chief Gary Gensler to probe pathway for Tesla to channel money tracks.
Exaon, a subsidiary of the energy giant EDF Group, joins Chile's China's validator node. Vitalik Buterin talks rainbow staking at ETH Taipei to combat centralization risks. OKX to reportedly discontinue service in India, users directed to close positions.
Senior leader of transnational criminal organization MS-13 arrested after 4 years on the run, court documents say. North Korean crypto hackers have stolen $3 billion since 2017, says UN Security Council. UK cracks down on synthetic opioid 10 times stronger than fentanyl, causing overdoses in Europe.
UK's bait to build fleet of nuclear-powered submarines for Australia, under AUKUS Pact. Yemen's Houthis tell China, Russia their ships in Red Sea won't be targeted. Serbia mulls scrapping ban on nuclear power production, and Europe's pro-nuclear leaders seek atomic energy revival.
Bill to put U.S. and China science pact under new scrutiny, passes a House committee. Land purchases by Chinese agents would be limited under Georgia bill. Democrats say it's racist. Chinese chip maker SMIC potentially broke U.S. law to make Huawei's 7-nanometer smartphone processor, lawmaker says.
Cillian Murphy confirmed to return for Peaky Blinders movie, starts shooting later this year. The Boondock Saints are back. Norman Reedus, Sean Patrick Flannery return as Boston Vigilantes as Thunder Road and Dragonfly Films take reins.
Broadcaster Yomiuri launching YTV animation ahead of Anime Japan 2024. Olivia Rodrigo debuts Obsessed video, plus Love Struck new So American track, as Deluxe Guts reaches fans. Androx GH0th malware targets Laravel apps to steal cloud credentials. Unpatchable vulnerability in Apple chip leaks secret encryption keys. China warns foreign hackers are infiltrating hundreds of business and government networks.
Russian hackers target Ukrainian telecoms with upgraded AcidPore malware, and Russian military intelligence may have deployed Wiper against multiple Ukrainian ISPs. Russia hackers using Tiny Turtle to breach European NGOS systems. U.S. sanctions Russians behind doppelganger cyber influence campaign.
EU's military assistance to Ukraine totals €31 billion since start of conflict, announced by Borrell. Hungary, Slovakia remain opposed to sending any arms to Ukraine to fight Russia's invasion. Russia begins 3 shifts production of 3-ton super bombs.
Russia selling oil and gas mainly for ruble, yuan, says Russia's deputy prime minister. Dutch agricultural exports to Russia increase since start of conflict in Ukraine. West continues to buy titanium from Russia despite sanctions, as reported by Washington Post.
Surgeons transplant world's first genetically edited pig kidney into living human. People in Japan most negative among 6 nations over living to 100 level of happiness as per poll. Scientists find a galaxy supercluster as massive as 26 quadrillion suns.
Slovenia has expelled a staff member from the Russian embassy. Moldova expels Russian diplomat after Transnistria voting. Holy See concerned over fake news reports about Pope, his itinerary, claimed a Vatican source, as Vatican denies planned Pope visit to Moscow amid Kremlin silence. UK threatens Israel with arms embargo over access of Red Cross to jailed Hamas militants.
French Senate rejects EU and Canada free trade agreement. In Brazil, federal revenue reaches 186.5 real billion in February, the highest value for the month in 30 years. China scrutinizes PwC role in $78 billion Evergrande fraud case.
Von der Leyen asks Finland to prepare the EU for war. EU hopes to transfer €1 billion of incomes from frozen Russian assets to keep by July 1st. Putin is ready to squeeze Russia's outrageously wealthy elite to fund a future war with NATO, analysts say. About 40 attempts to spoil ballots registered during presidential elections, announced by CEC head.
Rupert Murdoch and New Washington Post CEO accused of cover-up in hacking scandal, as Prince Harry's landline calls were bugged by Murdoch papers, lawyers say. Niemer's father says his family won't bail Alves out of Spanish prison after rape conviction. Kotaku editor-in-chief resigns after criticizing management.
Wegovy to be covered by U.S. Medicare for heart disease patients. Canada ranks last in primary health care access among 10 wealthy countries, announced in a report. CDC announced that U.S. life expectancy rises after two-year dip. Verizon rolls out FCC-mandated broadband nutrition labels. Nike to become Germany's supplier in 2027 after 7 decades with Adidas, announces the DFB, German Football Federation. Launch of Russian Soyuz spacecraft aborted seconds before blast-off.
In the U.S., Justice Department states accuse Apple of holding a smartphone monopoly, and Apple CarPlay is anti-competitive, too, U.S. lawsuit alleges. Apple CEO Tim Cook meets Biden, other key mainland suppliers in Shanghai as U.S. tech giant opens 57th China store.
In road rage epidemic, nearly 1 in 6 drivers admit to being victims. In Australia, school principals faced with machetes, spears and knives as report reveals soaring classroom violence. Texas sues Chatterbaton's hamsters owners over age verification law.
Apple releases iOS 17.4.1 and iPadOS 17.4.1 with bug fixes and security improvements. Google is bringing satellite messaging to Android 15. Over 800 NPM packages found with discrepancies, 18 exploitable to manifest confusion.
VW's Cupra heading to the U.S., with larger electric cars after Australian growth, as Seat Cupra's CEO confirms Formentor EV and a new electric SUV are coming to the U.S. Audi committed to launching last gas-powered car in 2026. Volkswagen announces ID. Buzz GDX with 335 HP as the most powerful bully ever.
Unifor says Bell laid off hundreds of employees through virtual meetings. Union employees are about $100,000 richer than non-union workers, according to the Fed, as labor movement continues its winning streak. DoorDash begins piloting drone deliveries in the U.S.
Global heating could cause an extra 1.2 meters lamb deaths in Australia each year, study finds. Global sea level jump due to El Nino and climate change, as reported by NASA. State Farm discontinuing 72,000 home policies in California, in latest blow to state insurance market.
Biden cancels nearly $6 billion in student debt for public service workers. Switzerland surprises with rate cut, moving ahead of ECB and Fed. Boeing chair to meet key airline customers without Planemaker's CEO, sources say. Airbus wins jet orders from 2 Asian customers of rival Boeing. Biden campaign calls Trump broke down after he lags in fundraising. New York Attorney General James moves to seize Trump assets in Westchester, as $464 million plus interest fraud bond deadline looms. Trump criticism is a badge of honor for Rudd, former diplomat says, and Australia defends its U.S. ambassador, Kevin Rudd, after Trump attack.
Microsoft pays Inflection $650 million in licensing deal while poaching top talents, source says. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang reckons we might see AI-generated games in less than 10 years. Chinese big tech firms from Tencent to Kuaishou tout advancing generative AI models in race to catch up.
Tennessee lawmakers propose legislation banning chemtrails. Luxury property boom turns realtors into celebrities in India. 20% of properties in the center of Sao Paulo are unoccupied, shows census. PetroChina's Guangdong Petrochemical to receive first Venezuelan crude cargo around March 23. TASS reported that Middle East oil policy is no longer dictated by Russian intel chief. Biden set to award billions to decarbonize U.S. heavy industries.
EU agrees to begin membership negotiations with Bosnia and Herzegovina. Greece lifts golden visa threshold in bid to ease housing crisis, and Greece to increase golden visa amount to $862,000. England, Wales and Scotland all now in favor of Irish unification.